Welcome to the Daily Current Affairs by CivicCentre IAS, where we try to discuss the important articles from the Hindu, the Indian Express and the PIB from the UPSC CSC prelims perspective. Displayed are the list of articles which we are going to discuss in today's video. The first article of the day says that the National Human Rights Commission, in short called the NHRC, on Tuesday issued notice to Jharkhand government over an incident in which a pregnant woman in labour pain was not attended to for about 27 hours at the MGM hospital of Jamshedpur. In this context, let us talk about National Human Rights Commission, in short called the NHRC. See, the NHRC of India was established on 12th October of 1993. Know that the statute under which it was established is the Protection of Human Rights Act of 1993 as amended by the Protection of the Human Rights Amendment Act of 2006. Significantly, it is in conformity with the Paris Principles adopted at the first international workshop on national institutions for the promotion and protection of human rights held in Paris in October 1991. Now, if we have to know about its composition, see, the commission consists of a chairperson, 5 full-time members and 7 deemed members. Notably, the chairman is a former Chief Justice of India or a Supreme Court judge. Then, if we have to talk about its appointment and tenure, see, the chairman and its members are appointed by the President on the recommendation of a 6-member committee. Notably, the committee consists of the Prime Minister, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, leaders of the opposition in both the Houses of Parliament and the Union Home Minister. Know that the chairman and the members hold office for a term of 3 years or until they reach the age of 70. Now, what are the functions of NHRC? See, firstly, it looks into the violation of the human rights or abetment. Secondly, any negligence in prevention of such violation by a public servant. Thirdly, to intervene in any proceeding involving any allegation of violation of human rights pending before a court with the approval of such court. Next, to visit under the intimation to the state government, any jail or any other institution under the control of the state government where the persons are detained or lodged for the purposes of treatment, reformation or protection to study the living condition of the inmates and make recommendations thereon. Then, to review the factors including acts of terrorism that inhibit the enjoyment of human rights and recommend appropriate remedial measures. Furthermore, to study treaties and other international instruments on human rights and make recommendations for their effective implementation. Next, to encourage the efforts of the non-governmental organizations and institutions working in the field of human rights. Lastly, such other functions as it may consider necessary for the promotion of human rights. Then, what about the powers of NHRC? See, under that, if you look at the civil powers, firstly, it can summon and examine the witnesses on oath. Secondly, it can request documents and public records. Thirdly, it can receive evidence via affidavits. Lastly, it can issue commissions for examining witnesses or documents. Then it can suggest compensation for victims of human rights violations. Furthermore, it can seek enforcement of human rights in the Supreme Court or High Courts. Lastly, it can take suo motu cognizance of human rights violations without a formal complaint. The second article of the day says that Tamil Nadu Minister for School Education on Tuesday reiterated that the state's objections to the National Education Policy 2020 pertain to specific elements of the policy such as 3-language formula and changes to the curriculum. In this context, let us talk about the National Education Policy of 2020. See, the new National Education Policy of 2020 is the first education policy of the 21st century in India, which replaces the previous National Policy on Education of 1986. Know that the first policy came in 1968, the second came in the year 1986 under Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi respectively. The third is the National Education Policy released in the year 2020. Notably, the Ministry of Education formed a committee under Dr. K. Kasturirangan which outlined this policy. Furthermore, there are 5 foundational pillars of the National Education Policy of 2020, which are access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Significantly, this policy aligned with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, if we have a look at its features, see the policy aims and aspires to universalize the pre-primary education and provides special emphasis on the attainment of foundational literacy or numeracy in primary school and beyond for all by 2025. Furthermore, in school education, the National Education Policy 2020 stresses on the core values and principle that education must develop not only the cognitive skills but also social and emotional skills, also referred to as soft skills. So, this soft skill includes cultural awareness and empathy, perseverance and grit, teamwork, leadership, and communication. Notably, in a significant shift from the 1986 policy, which pushed for a 10+2 structure of school education, the new policy pitches for a 5+3+3+4 design, corresponding to the age groups of 3 to 8 years for the foundational stage, 8 to 11 for the preparatory, 11 to 14 for the middle school, and 14 to 18 for secondary education. Hence, this brings early childhood education, also known as the preschool education for children of ages 3 to 5, under the ambit of formal schooling. Furthermore, the midday meal program will be extended to the preschool education. Notably, the NEP says students until class 5 should be taught in their mother tongue or regional language. If we have to talk about the implementation aspect, see the National Education Policy of 2020 only provides a broad direction and is not mandatory to follow. Since education is a concurrent subject, the reforms proposed can only be implemented collaboratively by the centre and the states. The next article says that Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on Tuesday convened the first meeting of the governing body of the Anusandhan nation. In this context, let us talk about Anusandhan National Research Foundation. See, the Anusandhan National Research Foundation has been established with Anusandhan National Research Foundation 2023 Act. Significantly, the ANRF aims to seed, grow, and promote research and development and foster a culture of research and innovation throughout the India's universities, colleges, research institutions, and R&D laboratories. Now, if we have to look at its objectives, see, one of the primary goals of ANRF is to address the infrastructure gap in the state and central universities. So, ANRF will act as an apex body to provide high-level strategic direction of scientific research in the country as per the recommendations of the National Education Policy of 2020. Furthermore, with the establishment of ANRF, the Science and Engineering Research Board, established by an Act of Parliament in the year 2008, has been subsumed into the ANRF. Also, ANRF will forge collaborations among the industry, academia, and government departments and research institutions. Notably, it creates an interface mechanism for the participation and contribution of industries and state governments in addition to the scientific and line ministries. Remember that the nodal ministry for it is the Department of Science and Technology. The next article says that the Union Home Minister Amit Shah on Tuesday said cyber security was linked to national security, and in the next 5 years, nearly 5,000 cyber commandos will be trained and deployed across the states to counter such threats. In this context, let us talk about the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, in short called the I4C. See, the I4C has been established under the Ministry of Home Affairs to deal with cybercrime in the country in a coordinated and comprehensive manner. Significantly, the I4C focuses on tracking issues related to cybercrime for citizens, including improving coordination between various law enforcement agencies and stakeholders. Know that the center is located in New Delhi. Now, what are the objectives of I4C? Firstly, to act as a nodal point to curb cybercrime in the country. Secondly, to strengthen the fight against cybercrime committed against women and children. Thirdly, to facilitate easy filing cybercrime related complaints and identifying cybercrime trends and patterns. Then, to act as an early warning system for law enforcement agencies for proactive cybercrime prevention and detection. Next, awareness creation among the public about preventing cybercrime. And lastly, to assist the states or union territories in capacity building of police officers, public prosecutors, and judicial officers in the area of cyber forensic, investigation, cyber hygiene, cyber criminology, etc. Now, let us look at the major initiatives. The first one is the SciTrain portal. See, massive open online courses platform called the SciTrain portal has been developed. Furthermore, SciTrain portal helps in the capacity building of police officers or judicial officers through online courses on critical aspects of cybercrime investigation, forensics and prosecution, and also gives completion certificates. The second one is Cyber Dost Handle. See, the I4C and the Ministry of Home Affairs has launched the Cyber Dost Handle on various social media platforms to generate a cyber awareness among citizens. The next one is the Cyber Pravaha. See, the Union Home Ministry unveiled the first edition of I4C newsletter, Cyber Pravaha. Notably, it's an initiative to share precise information related to cybercrime with the law enforcement agencies and other stakeholders. The next article says that the Gautam Budh Nagar Hospital Administration has confirmed the presence of E.coli bacteria in the water samples taken from the housing society in the Greater Noida West, where over 300 residents, including 170 children, fell sick last week. In this context, let us talk about E. coli. See, the Escherichia coli is a group of bacteria that normally lives in the gut of the healthy people and animals. Know that E. coli is a rod-shaped bacterium of the Enterobacteriaceae family. Notably, the type that lives in your GI tract usually doesn't hurt you. Moreover, it even helps you digest your food. But some strains can cause diarrhea if you eat contaminated food or drink polluted water. Now, what is an E. coli infection? See, an E. coli infection is a sickness you get from the E. coli bacteria. Know that the sugar toxin producing E. coli is a bacterium that can cause a severe foodborne disease. Notably, it causes a lot of diarrhea related illnesses like traveler's diarrhea and dysentery. Additionally, it also causes illnesses outside your intestines like pneumonia and spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. Now, what about the symptoms of the infection? See, the common symptoms include diarrhea, abdominal pain and cramping, nausea, and sometimes fever. But in severe cases, E. coli infections can lead to hemolytic uremic syndrome, a condition that can cause kidney failure and other complications, especially in young children and the elderly. Then how do you get E. coli? See, we get infected through ground meat, untreated milk, vegetables and fruit, and contaminated water. If you ask me if it's contagious, yes, E. coli can be contagious, which means it can spread from person to person. Some of the other bacterial diseases are tuberculosis, anthrax, tetanus, leptospirosis, pneumonia, and cholera. The next article says that the center has relaxed automatic exclusion criteria under the PradhanMantriAwasYojana Gramin, allowing families owning to two-wheelers, motorized fishing boats, refrigerators, landline phones, and earning up to 15,000 rupees per month to now avail the rural housing scheme. In this context, let us talk about the PMAY, which is the short form of the scheme. See, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is a flagship housing credit-linked subsidy scheme launched by the Government of India in the year 2015 to provide affordable housing to economically weaker sections and lower-income groups of the country. Know that the scheme has two components: the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban for the urban poor and the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin for the rural poor. Now, if you have to talk about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, see, to address the gaps in the rural housing program and in the view of the government's commitment to provide housing for all by the year 2024, Indira Awas Yojana has been renamed or restructured into the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin with effect from 1st April 2016. Significantly, the PMAY aims to providing a Pakka house with basic amenities to all houseless householders and those households living in Kacha and dilapidated house by 2024. Know that the beneficiaries are identified using the socio-economic and caste census 2011. Now let us look at some of the key features. Firstly, financial assistance of 1.2 lakh rupees in plain areas and 1.3 lakh rupees in the hilly, difficult and integrated action plan areas. Secondly, it encourages convergence with other schemes like Swachh Bharat Mission for toilet construction and MGNREGA for wage employment. Then, in PMAY, the program implementation monitoring is to be carried out through an end-to-end e-governance model using Awas Soft and Awas app. Furthermore, the program implementation is to be monitored not only electronically but also through community participation, Member of Parliament Disha Committee, central and state government officials, national level monitors, etc. Remember that the nodal ministry is the Ministry of Rural Development. The next article says that in mid-August 2024, the World Health Organization declared the surge of Mpox cases in several parts of Africa as a public health emergency of international concern, in short called the PHEIC. So, this declaration emphasizes the gravity of the situation and calls for increased global cooperation to address the outbreak. In this context, let us talk about Mpox. See, Mpox, previously known as monkeypox, is a zoonotic viral disease with symptoms similar to smallpox, though less severe. Know that it is typically resolves on its own within 2 to 4 weeks. Notably, severe cases are more common in children and depend on factors such as virus exposure, patient health, and complications. If we have to talk about its transmission, it spreads through prolonged close contact with an infected person or direct contact with body fluids, lesion material, or contaminated items like clothing or linens. Furthermore, there are 3 stages to it, which are incubation, prodrome, and rash. See, firstly, the incubation period for Mpox, which is the time for infection to the onset of the symptoms, typically ranges from 6 to 13 days, but can extend from 5 to 21 days also. Know that the individuals are not contagious during this period. Then the prodrome phase is characterized by symptoms including fever, headache, muscle and body aches, malaise, chills, sore throat, lymphadenopathy, and cough. Lastly, the skin involvement, which features lesions that develop simultaneously and evolve together on the affected body parts. Know that these lesions progress through 4 stages, which are macular, papular, vesicular, and pustular. Then moving on to talk about its prevention, it primarily focused on raising awareness about risk factors and educating people on reducing exposure to the virus. Some of the other key preventive measures include avoiding contact with materials that have been in contact with infected individuals, then isolating infected patients from others, further practicing good hand hygiene such as washing hands with soap and water or using alcohol-based hand sanitizer, especially after contact with the infected animals or humans, then using appropriate personal protective equipment with then caring for patients, and lastly, properly containing and disposing of contaminated waste under biomedical waste management guidelines for infectious waste. Other PHEIC include H1N1, polio declaration, outbreak of Ebola, Zika virus epidemic, Ebola epidemic, and COVID-19 pandemic. The last article of the day says that Global Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Watchdog Financial Action Task Force FATF is working towards new norms for higher disclosures by financial institutions, payment aggregators, fintech companies for cross-border payments involving mainly credit card transactions. In this context, let us talk about Financial Action Task Force, in short called the FATF. See, the Financial Action Task Force is an intergovernmental body, decision-making body. Know that it was established in 1989 during the G7 summit in Paris to develop policies against money laundering. Furthermore, it is a policy-making body which works to generate the political will to bring out national legislative and regulatory reforms in money laundering. Notably, it has also started dealing with virtual currencies. See, the secretariat is located in Paris. If we have to look at the objective of FATF, see, the FATF sets standards and promotes effective implementation of legal, regulatory, and operational measures for combating money laundering, and the FATF works to identify national level vulnerabilities with the aim of protecting international finance system for misuse. Now, what are the functions of FATF? See, the Financial Action Task Force is a global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog. So it sets international standards that aim to prevent these illegal activities and harm they cause to the society. Furthermore, the FATF researches how money is laundered and terrorism is funded, promotes global standards to mitigate the risks, and assesses whether countries are taking effective action. Then, what about the members? See, currently there are 39 members of the FATF. Also, it has 37 jurisdictions and 2 regional organizations, which are the Gulf Cooperation Council and the European Commission. Notably, Indonesia is the only observer status of the FATF. There are FATF blacklist countries, which are Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Iran, and Myanmar. Now, moving on to talk about India and FATF. See, India became an observer at FATF in the year 2006. Since then, it had been working towards a full-fledged membership. Then in 2010, India was taken in as the country member of the IATF. Know that India is also a member of the regional partners, the Asia Pacific Group, APG, and the Eurasian Group.